Hey, Spanish students, this is Mark Hanish. First of all, I just want to say thank you for choosing me as your Spanish tutor. I'm excited to get started with you, and I just wanted to make a few videos and hopefully a good series of videos to where we can keep things going online. That's my goal, and that's my vision with Spanish tutoring. I love meeting with people one-on-one, but my schedule has filled up quite a bit, especially on my off days. Right now I'm teaching Spanish at a high school in St. Paul, and when I'm not teaching there, I'm either prepping for those classes or tutoring you. And so I wanted to make this process a little bit more streamlined and give you some content that's not necessarily one-on-one, but still have that individualized feedback when you're not meeting with me. Like I've mentioned before to my past students, I see myself more as a Spanish language coach, and I want to give you the resources that you need so that you can study on your own and you won't need me after 3 months. That's the way I want to organize and set up my lessons, is because there's so many different resources out there for language learners, and sometimes it can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be you don't know where to start. You don't even know where to start. And so that's where I want to step in and say, okay, let's start with this. And so today I just wanted to share a little bit of my story and my passion for the language and why I'm doing this. And then a little bit of the process and kind of intro why I do the things I do, and kind of step into that with you, especially for new students as well. So to start, I'll just start with my story. Started off learning Spanish in high school. It was actually in 8th grade, and spent 4 years in Spanish. I have no reason why I stayed in Spanish. I did not ever like being in class, and never quite enjoyed learning the language, but I also knew that there were going to be college credits offered me my senior year of high school, and a lot of universities needed that language requirement. And so I decided to stay in for some reason, and finally got to my senior year, and I was almost going to quit, and realized that my sister got a lot of credits with the CIS college Spanish class. So I decided to take it, and the first semester was very difficult, but it started to click with me, and everything kind of started to click in that class, which was really fun. It was my first male teacher, which was kind of strange, but it was a blast to be able to start to pick up on some of these patterns that I was learning over the past 4 years. And so after that year, I was trying to decide what I wanted to do in school. I kind of fell into the trap of, I need to go to school because that's what people do, right? And so as I was heading off to Iowa State, I did not know what I wanted to study, and I was just thinking through it, potentially like something in business, but I wasn't necessarily super passionate about that. And then I realized, you know what, let's just go for Spanish. Let's just try it. I did really well my senior year. I enjoyed the class. Let's do it. I did not see myself as a Spanish teacher ever. I could never have seen myself. If you would have asked me that 5-6 years ago, I would have said absolutely not. But I did enjoy learning the language, and that was something that I was very passionate about. So I decided to go into Spanish classes. Got to Iowa State, and it was not as hard as my senior year class, and so I realized I'm with these juniors, and I can hold my own with people that have been practicing language even more than I have. And so even then, I started to realize that there was a problem in this process of language learning, right? Like, there's so many people in the world that are learning languages and are actually passionate about it and can do it within, a fraction of the time that we are doing it. And so I started to see this problem, this issue in my university classes where, you can be in as many classes as you want, but that won't change bad habits and different things like that. So fast forward to that would be my junior year of college, my third year, and I decided best decision of my life, to study abroad. Actually, first, so backwards, I went to Guatemala for a mission trip, which was just an amazing trip. Not necessarily for my Spanish skills, but just life in general. Yeah, it was just a life-changing trip that I'll never forget, where I was able to use my Spanish occasionally and did develop that summer and really learned about Latin American culture in general, which was an awesome experience. However, when I really started to learn the language and develop good skills with speaking specifically, was when I decided to go to Spain. It was a smaller town in Extremadura, España, and it was a fantastic decision. I loved it. I will never regret going to Spain. I love that country. And I spent 6 months there. It was 4 months studying with our program. And then 2 months I just decided to stay with a church that I had been participating in. And my language really took off, and I was actually teaching English over there and doing, just really living the life. It was just a really good opportunity and a really fun way to use my language. And so that's where I really found out that I want to pursue this. I want to pursue something in the Spanish language. I didn't know quite yet what that looked like, but I knew that I wanted to keep practicing. I wanted to keep going with the Spanish. And so I got home from studying abroad and joined a group, like a Monday night meetup group, where we spoke Spanish and talked about different things and just kind of made new friends. And also I got a sales job at T-Mobile where I was working with Spanish speakers quite a bit, and that was very difficult. Don't ever do that. Don't ever go into your second language and try to be a salesman. It didn't work out the best, but it was also a good experience to learn about sales. I did learn a lot. But then I decided to join AmeriCorps, where I was in a Spanish-speaking office and was able to continue my Spanish speaking and continue developing my skills and pretty much not lose the language. That was pretty much my goal after Spain, is that it's very easy to learn, but it's also very easy to lose. And so I joined this office, and I was speaking Spanish every day and pretty much not losing it. And then I just started to tutor. I wanted to have an extra income, honestly. And so I started tutoring a few students that I found through a couple online marketing websites. And I started realizing that I really like it, and I really like to see the progress that students make. I've more so made my focus on adults. Beginning adults, I really like the idea of starting fresh and not having any bad habits from before. But I love to work with everyone, and so that's kind of my story. And I love sharing this process with people. If you haven't read Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner, I highly recommend it. A lot of my ideas come from him, and then a few other people as well. But as I kind of pool all of these language learning tips together, and I have gone through it myself, and I know kind of the grammar structure and the process for learning Spanish, I've made sort of a process and a system for my students to learn Spanish. And so that's what I want to share with you now, is just kind of the process that I've made. And hopefully it'll make sense. A lot of people don't like it, and that's totally fine. I'm not here to say that my process is the best way to learn a language. I'm just saying it's what's worked for me, and I've seen it work on other people, so I just wanted to share it. The process is a 3-step process for me, and I am a big believer in pronunciation. So for the first month, we're going to be working on pronunciation. You can know all of the words in the world for Spanish, and if you don't know how to pronounce them, and if you don't know what they sound like, if you can't comprehend the sounds that you're taking in, then language means nothing. You have to understand the sounds that are coming out of someone else's mouth and of your mouth, and they have to be able to understand you. So I work on pronunciation, and so what that will look like is one-on-one, we will be practicing where to put your tongue, like literally where to put your tongue. A lot of times you'll see me like this and pretending like, oh, move your tongue here, move your tongue here, because you have to retrain your mouth to speak new sounds. For any language that you learn, you're going to have to learn new sounds, and so we can connect it to English in some ways, but in other ways it's just completely new. It's part of learning a language is you have to learn how to make these new sounds, and so that's what we're going to do for the first month. And let me back up a little bit as well. Something that I always share with my students is that I want them to be done with lessons within 3 months. That's my goal. I don't want people to have to do lessons for more than 3 months. I think I'm doing a disservice to people when I'm doing that. I love to meet with people, and I'm more than happy to work with people, after 3 months. But I just don't think that's the best use of money and time. And so right from the beginning, I say 20 minutes at least every day committed to Spanish practice. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but that really adds up after 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's a commitment that you have to take, and if you're not willing to practice for a focused amount of time every day, then it's not going to work as fast as the 3 months that I say at the beginning. So I just preface that you have to practice, and it's fun. I think it's fun, but either way, if you want to learn the language, you have to practice it, and you have to be exposed to it, and you have to be producing sounds, and you have to be hearing sounds, and be exposed to this. So back to the process. Step 1, pronunciation. Get the sounds of Spanish down, especially the vowels. I'm going to be, every time that I start with a new student, it's going to be learning the vowels, learning the alphabet, and then learning the consonant sounds. Putting those together, you're going to have consonant-vowel combinations. There's a document for that you'll see in the future. Making those sounds, it seems very simple, but everyone makes the mistakes on there. So that takes about 1 to 2 weeks. And then we're going to move into shorter words, like 4-letter words, working on simple consonant sounds, and then mixing in those vowel sounds in there to practice those good habits. That's something that I harp on all the time, is that I don't want to create bad habits. I want to create good habits so that you don't have to dig them up like I did. Okay, I created all of these bad habits. No one taught me how to pronounce the R's or the T's. And so I created all these terrible habits, and then I realized, once I was in Guatemala and in Spain, that pronunciation has to be there in order for people to understand me. And so I had to kind of dig up my bad habits and then retrain myself, which took a really long time. And so I'm super passionate about starting off right from the beginning with really good pronunciation and going from there. So pronunciation, step number 1. Step number 2, vocabulary. It's obviously a big part of any language, is you want to learn vocabulary, and I get a lot of my my thoughts and this step from specifically the Fluent Forever book. And so I use an app called Anki, or it's Anki app. It's the free version, and basically what you will do is you'll use an SRS system, which is spaced repetition system. I believe that's it. And spaced repetition basically means that the deck itself actually remembers which cards you know well and which cards you don't. So every time you go through a card, let's just say gato, and you're learning the word cat in Spanish, okay, and you forget it the first time, you say fail. The next time it's going to come up faster than when you've said you've memorized 4 times. And so it remembers which cards you do well. And so we're going to be practicing with the Anki app in the first stage just to get you familiar with it. But it's really not meant for the first stage. That's just to get you familiar with the technology. Step 2 is where we really are going to use the technology Anki, the SRS system, on your phone or on your computer. So that's the nice part about it, is that it syncs up between the two. So with that, we are going to be taking the 625 most common words in Spanish, and learning them all. And that's the process that I will take. So every week I'm going to test you in some way. Right now I'm still meeting with people one-on-one, but in the future I'm hoping to have some sort of course online. And so whatever that looks like, maybe a call, maybe a Skype call, maybe online, maybe in person, whatever that is, I'm going to be testing you with those words in context. And so by the end of that second month, you're going to be able to have that 625 words if you're practicing every day, 20 minutes at least, if not more, for those vocab words. And so the way that I want to do that is I'm never going to give you a list that says, here's Spanish words and English words combined with definitions or whatever. I'm never going to give you a definition list like they would in school. I'm always going to give you, or I'm always going to have you make a picture or a concept related to a word. And that's how we learn languages. We don't learn languages by, reading from definition to definition, English to Spanish. There is some value to that. There is some value in cross-body movement as far as memorization and study skills go. But for long-term memory, the best thing that you can do is to make a connection with a word, make a picture in your mind as to what that is, and actually memorize it like that, because that'll stick into your long-term memory. And then once you do that, the SRS system picks up on how well you know the word and how well you don't know the word, and it remembers that. And so it keeps track of which cards to give you and which cards to not give you, so that you are practicing and studying as efficiently as possible. That's what I want to really, the whole point of my lessons and my sessions with people are, I want to be as efficient with this language learning process as possible. And then the last step is grammar, just basic grammar. I'm not going to be teaching every single tense out there in Spanish. What I'm going to be doing is teaching you the basics of Spanish grammar, the basics of how to learn conjugations and what to do and resources to go to. And so this will mostly be consisting of like gender, like masculine and feminine with nouns, and then present tense conjugation. I go to them all, etc., etc., and learning these verbs and putting them into the present tense. And then using those present tense verbs in situations. And so one activity that I do, for example, are the 5 senses. And so you'll learn the 5 senses in the present tense. I smell the tree on the sidewalk. I hear the kids playing on the playground. Those are sentences that you're going to be able to make after the 3rd month of working with me. And so with that, you're going to kind of combine everything. And between the last 2 stages, I'm always going to be coming back to the pronunciation stage. Again, that's just something that I want to keep practicing, keep working on, and hopefully just build as good of habits as possible and kind of give you your solid foundation so that once you're done with that grammar stage, you can say, see you, Mark, I don't need you anymore. I don't need to pay you to be my tutor. I can learn this on my own. And that's my goal with people, because that's fun. It's really fun when you finally have that base to go and learn on your own. And so I want to give you the tools and the direction to do that. So that is basically the process. I'm sure I've got a lot more to share with you, but this is just a general overview and something that I want to share with my students. It's something that I share with everyone first lesson anyways, and so I thought I would just make a video instead of having to use time in our sessions so that we can just get to Spanish right away. So I would be happy to answer any questions about this, but anyways, thank you so much, and again, thank you so much for choosing me as your tutor. I'm so excited to see the progress that you make, and I know that there will be progress. An analogy that I like to make, I found it in a book, I can't remember which one, but these lessons are a lot of times like if you zoom out of an ocean view from the very top and the coast, you're at the coast. Most of the time, you're going to see waves right at the beginning. and it's going to be hard to swim through those waves because they're kind of crashing over you and they pull you backwards, right? That's kind of what the language process feels like a lot of times. It is right away. Like things just aren't fun and it's kind of clunky and awkward. That's what it's going to feel like, to be honest with you. And if you can get through these 3 months practicing 20 minutes every day and getting through these steps, you will have that firm foundation and you will be past those waves, that fraction of water at the coast, and then you'll be swimming by yourself and it'll be smooth sailing from there. So that's just my little spiel. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to meeting with you soon. Bye.